I wanted to mention a couple things I messed up in the video that's about to follow. I know Eddie Jobson does not play guitar. I say he plays guitar at one point. It's violin and keyboards. Trying to Grow a Chin was one of the regular 16 songs that was played almost every night. I think it got dropped once, maybe twice. But I said it was played once. No, it was played many, many times. And then also another show that is out there that's kind of interesting to hear because Leather Goods comes from this show. That the track that's on Leather is the London February 17th show. Decent quality, like a B, maybe a minor B plus. Not bad sound, but that is out there. And that has some pretty interesting moments. But anyways, yeah, on to this tour. What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, currently ranking and reviewing all of Frank Zappa's tours, the 26 I have deemed worthy of being called a tour, that are worthy of being ranked and reviewed. Heading towards number one, I am now at number 22, Winter 77. January 13th through February 17th of 1977, 21 shows, all European, about 22 different songs were played to the last I counted, might be more. Tapes may have been discovered since then, since I compiled this, but about 22 different songs. And essentially this tour, almost all the shows or the set lists that are available, it's the same 16 songs every night, runs just short of 2 hours, and every once in a while Frank mixes things up in the middle. There's a couple songs that appear once or just appear a couple times, and then the encores sometimes get interesting. And then this weird pairing of two particular songs produces some really inspired sort of just completely random jams. But other than that, you know the 16 songs you're going to get every night. The highlights, for the most part, are Frank's solo in that song or other solos from other band members. And so there's not much deviation from show to show. And so, and here is who is in the band before I get more into that. So the band is essentially the same band that has been around since fall 76. You get Frank Zappa on guitar, Ray White on guitar and vocals, who started in fall 76, Patrick O'Hearn on bass and vocals, 76, Terry Bozzio on drums and vocals, being the devil, all that stuff, 75, Eddie Jobson, violin and keyboards, 76 is when they started. You know, we're now winter 77. But the fall 76 band, and the reason that band is ranked higher than this, is Bianca Odin was in the band. And her just presence alone, her singing abilities, the instruments she played, gave the band somewhat of a bigger sound. And also, the arrangements of songs Frank did because of her voice made that tour better than this tour, more interesting than this tour. But apparently she left the band because Frank fans treated her rather poorly, and she didn't want to be a part of it anymore. So all you jerks out there who yelled, "Take your clothes off" at her every night, yeah, thanks for ruining a good thing. Yeah. So also, and then they were also the band that was essentially the Zappa in New York band, but that band was augmented by horn players, percussionists, all that stuff. And Frank treated those shows as an event. You know, this is a European tour in winter. You know, that's what this is. And so really, there's not very much officially released at all. In fact, while Frank was around, only one track from this band was ever released, and that's Pink Napkins, which is a Black Napkin solo from this tour. There were tracks that were on Leather, but because Leather never got released in Frank's life, it wasn't until after Frank passed, when Leather was released, that those tracks were released. And when Leather was broken up into the different, orchestral favorites, Studio Tan, Sleep Dirt, Zappa New York, the tracks that were from this tour, Frank abandoned completely and then used updated versions of the same songs for Shake Your Booty. And those tracks were Trying to Grow a Chin and Broken Hearts Over Assholes. So those two songs, we just got more recent versions of those. And then two other tracks that are from this, Duck Duck Goose off Leather, the Whole Lotta Love guitar jam, and Leather Goods, which is also that same jam, a longer, more healthier version of it. Those are from an interesting segment that took place in most of these shows, which was Jones Crusher into My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama, or even when those were separated by other things in the middle. Jones Crusher either had really interesting codas, or My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mother had really interesting intros depending on the show. But more on that in a while. But yeah, so there's not a lot officially out there from this band. So I believe that if the Zappa Family Trust were to release like a 4-disc set, maybe 2 complete shows with, we get a lot of repeat tracks, but maybe throw in that single Illinois Enema Bandit from February 3rd, maybe that whole show, which was the longest show of the tour, with another show that, just had another little treat or two in it. They did a Willie the Pimp this tour, which I did not enjoy. It starts off slow, and then it goes into the 84 fast version. But then at the end, there's a weird little jam that kind of doesn't go anywhere, but maybe the sound is muddled, so I don't know. That might be interesting to hear, that Willie the Pimp. But we don't really have anything official out there, so it's hard to truly gauge how I feel about this tour. Because there's a number of cassettes, maybe just over half the shows I've seen tapes of. There's several on YouTube, which I'll talk about in a while. But the sound, there's one show that is some pretty good stereo sound, but the performance is kind of lackluster. So the sound is audience, a lot of kind of echo and reverb, and the guitar solos are pretty clear, but you really, really have to have a higher tolerance for that kind of poor sound quality for this tour than some of the other tours, unfortunately. Though there are a couple kind of decent shows out there. But anyways, essentially you had the same 16 songs played almost every night, and great set list, not complaining about the songs, a good choice of songs. But other than Frank's guitar solos or Eddie Jobson's guitar solos or a Ray White guitar solo, which I'm not going to say was the same every night, but the range in which he explored musically was not as vast as, say, Jobson or Zappa. Bosio has a drum solo every night, which I have a low tolerance for drum solos, I'll admit. But other than that, there are not any real crazy musical moments other than the moments after Jones Crusher, which sounds nothing like, well, it does, I'll get into that. And My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mother, these really crazy just jams that would pop up. Maybe only 1 or 2 minutes long, 3 minutes long, but still really, really interesting and kind of showing where Frank was going. Kind of a cross between where he was with Ship Ahoy without the effects to where he would be going with his Wild Love, Yo Mama, Little House I Used to Live in things in the years that would follow. So you could see this as a short bridge to much greater things that he would produce on guitar. There are no monster songs on this tour, no really crazy jams. Pound for a Brown was simply a Frank guitar solo, sometimes a great Frank guitar solo. There's a Berlin show that's on YouTube. I think it's maybe the 7th, February 7th, that has a great Pound for a Brown on it. That's amazing, and a really good jam after Jones Crusher is on there. Black Napkins, Jobson got a really good solo in that, and then Frank, but again, it wasn't like a King Kong 82 or any of those Big Swifty King Kong pounds from 88, those truly monstrous events, just kind of a rotation of solos. And then basically, so what you would get every night is this set list. And again, it's a good set list. I'm not complaining. Just because there is no real deviance in this set list, everything else has to stand up to push this tour higher, and it doesn't. And this tour, and I can't remember if I mentioned this, but the next tour and the following tour, 21 and 20, are all kind of similar in that the set lists are highly repetitive, and so you really don't need to seek out more than 1 or 2 shows from each tour, but sometimes the guitar playing is so spectacular that you have to. And these next 3 tours all kind of fall in that same really solid shows, but maybe over the course of 30 shows, it's not that compelling of a tour, to make that distinction, which I hope is clear. But anyways, you would get your opening with the Purple Lagoon, just the vamp. They come out. They do Peaches and Regalia, Torture Never Stops, good Frank solo. He's still not where he would be by Winter 78, which I think is sort of the platonic ideal of all Tortures. Anything before Winter 78 is heading towards that peak. Anything after Winter 78 is deviating and going away from that peak. So he's not quite there yet, but a year shy of being there, but these are still good solos. Big Leg Emma, excellent choice of songs. Torture into Big Leg Emma is wonderful. excellent setlist choice. City of Tiny Lights, which contained a Ray White solo, pretty good solo, pretty lengthy solo, and then sometimes a Patrick O'Hearn bass solo, which I always thought killed the momentum, wasn't quite as effective a soloist as I think he would be by 77 and 78. And then the Pound for a Brown, which was usually just a Frank solo. And the arrangement, the actual way the band sounds, one of the most anemic sounding Pound for a Browns. It just jobs in, and Ray White carrying the melody. I mean, it really relies, I think, more on Patrick and Terry. And yeah, it's a weird. And again, I've only heard it on tapes. I haven't heard an official release. So maybe the ZFT can, clear that up and give us an official release. But yeah, it's a very anemic sounding, and you're almost like, woo. But then the solo starts and everything's good because Patrick O'Hearn and Bozio are incredible rhythm, an incredible rhythm section, and they pretty much elevate everything to greater heights. So no complaints once the solo starts. And then Jones Crusher, which starts off really slow and gritty and almost sounds like Ray White is trying to do a Captain Beefheart impersonation. And then you get the same lyrics pretty much. And then some of the parts you can recognize, but it doesn't really feel like a one organic song as much as it feels like 5 or 6 different parts just kind of stitched together. Frank hadn't really found the song's sort of inner rhythm and let those pieces like kind of go together as organically as they sound like they do on the Shake Your Booty version. So it's a really interesting listen. I definitely don't think it's as good as the final product, but it's got a really neat keyboard section in it that I do like. Kind of sounds almost Styx-ish or Argent. Not Argent. It's not what I'm thinking of. Darn it, I'll think of them later. Not Savatage, starts with an S. Darn. Band. Aldo Nova. Reminds me of Aldo Nova. Does not start with an S. So that's what weird 70s keyboard sound of that. That usually goes into My Guitar, which is another slow down version of this song. And there's a lot of times between Jones Crusher and My Guitar when Frank just starts playing stuff, like just out there on his own. Sometimes the rhythm section kicks in and there's a jam. Sometimes they don't. It's just, you kind of never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it feels like it's an afterthought of Jones Crusher. Sometimes it then stops and goes directly into My Guitar. Sometimes it feels more like Jones Crusher has stopped and Frank's leading into My Guitar. It's a magical little space of music that occurs in most of these shows. It occurs in all the shows. Well, no, it doesn't, because sometimes Frank throws songs between those two. But it's a really great moment. And one of those that, like, kind of, if you're going to check out a tape and you enjoy the first couple songs, you want to stick around for the Jones Crusher moment to see what happens. Because it really is one of those. I think I would buy a box set that had nothing but Jones Crusher, Segway, Your Mama, Why Do I Keep My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mama? I would buy a box set that had all those for this, because I probably think there's enough interesting moments to warrant its release. Then you would typically, but sometimes get different stuff. You'd get a Broken Hearts for Assholes, Dong Work for Yuta, Manx Needs Women, Titties and Beer, a Black Napkins, which was sort of the longer, more epic Jobson Gets a Time, Frank Gets a Time, Camarillo Brillo, and a Muffin Man with various other things thrown in. Illinois Enema Bandit is played once and everybody gets a chance to solo. Cruising for Burgers is played, essentially sounding like Zappa in New York. Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me, unfortunately, has to show up once. But Illinois Enema Bandit, as always, follows it for this tour, as always. There's Trying to Grow a Chin pops up once. What else? There's a Willie the Pimp, which I said I didn't really enjoy the couple times I listened to it. Yeah, I think that's literally everything. A Dynamo Hum, of course, pops up. Frank's there's an I'm the Slime somewhere in there. Montana with solos. This would be the last time this song would have a guitar solo ever for Frank, even though he did play it in 80s. And for a couple weeks, maybe just a week in December of 1984, he decided to solo in it once again, but he would not on any other tour. I think it's only played once, if I'm not mistaken, because I wrote here, it's not a particularly worthy solo. So I've heard one version of it at least. And that's about it for everything that was played on this tour right there. So those were all the songs. I think I've mentioned each song by name at this point. Everything that was played on this tour. So again, yes, please, Zappa Family Trust, release at least, I would say, February 3rd, that Paris show. It's a really good release. Maybe 2 discs with a third disc of like the best of the rest. You know, that would be pretty awesome. Some shows I recommend. Gothenburg, Sweden, January 21st is a pretty decent show. That one has a Cruising for Burgers in it. It's got pretty good sound quality. That Paris, February 3rd is a really good show. That's the one that has the Illinois Anima Bandit. It has better sound quality. And I want to say this, and there's a couple on YouTube, and they're both pretty echoey, not that great quality, but they both have some pretty good moments as far as guitar solos go. January 26th and 27th are both pretty good sounding shows, and I won't say the peaks are too high, but they're not bad in any stretch of the imagination. And then January 30th is also a pretty good show. And there's not much of February. So the stuff that is like available, like we've seen set lists for the latter half of this tour, but I haven't seen a lot of tapes that have in anywhere near decent sound quality, unfortunately. So as the band possibly got better, or Frank got a little more out there, we don't have anything really good that sounds great. That's like, yeah, this is proof that this band got good. So maybe the ZFT can right those wrongs. So I think that's all I have to say about this. Again, not a bad tour. It's just, you know, you're going for individual shows because I don't think things change much show after show after show. But anyways, yeah, I think that's all I got to say about this. Thank you for watching. If you check out these shows or you know anything else about this tour that I missed or I made a mistake, please let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about this tour if you have thoughts. And maybe if we all put, hey, Joe Travers, release something from this in the ZFT in the comments, maybe he'll read them because sometimes he watches these videos, because I think this would be an awesome band to hear in like really good sound, because we know good sound exists because of those leather tracks. So Frank recorded something from this tour. We know that. Maybe there's a complete show out there. But anyways, thanks for watching. Thank all of you guys. Enjoy listening, all that stuff. All right, peace, goodbye. Subscribe, you know, all that.